Today we're going to be changing out the gear oil in a manual transmission FD RX-7.
Seriously, I just had it.
If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please consider doing so. It'll really help me out in growing the channel, and it'll also help keep me motivated to keep bringing you guys FD content and other little projects that I have going on around the house. Here we are on the underside of the FD. The transmission cover, which is normally in this area here, has been removed and discarded by the previous owner, so you'll probably have to remove that in order to gain access to all of this. There are three plugs that you'll need to be worried about. One is the filler plug here, the drain plug here, and the drain plug here. You don't have to worry about the one that's on the front side up here. We're not doing anything with that guy at this point. So before I get started in, I'm going to remove the filler plug, and I'm just going to check the oil level of what's in there so that I can see if it was low to begin with. And the way I'm going to do that is just remove this plug here, and then I'm going to take a piece of wire bent at a 90, and then I'm going to stick it in and just see where that level is in comparison to the base of the fill plug hole. Now that I have the filler plug removed, like I said before, I'm just going to take a piece of wire bent at a 90, and I'm just going to put it into the hole and then bring it back out and use it like a little dipstick. I'm going to pull out this bottom drain plug here first, and I'm going to drain out the bulk of what I can and what is left in the transmission, which apparently is very clear and looks like it was recently changed. And there doesn't appear to be a lot of crazy metal shavings or anything on the end of the magnet here either. Once this drains out completely, I'll remove this guy here and drain the rest of the fluid out. Okay, I've broken this guy loose, and I'm just going to pull it out and make sure I get my crush washer with it. While I'm waiting on the transmission to drain, these are the three drain plugs that I've removed in order to drain all the fluid out and of course fill it back up. Now this one right here, you can see it does have a magnet on the top side, so what you want to do is just clean this up really well and make sure that there aren't any particulates or metal shavings or anything like that. This looks really clean. This has an aluminum crush washer on it. I'm going to be reusing that. That'll get tightened down to 29 to 43 foot-pounds according to the factory service manual. This is the other drain plug. You can see it does have a tiny little bit of particulate on there. You can see it comes off on the rag. And you can do one of two things. You can buy a new one of these, or you can reuse this and put some oil-safe Teflon thread tape on it. I've used Blue Monster thread tape. It's oil-safe. Used it in the past. It's worked out great for me. So I'm going to be doing that and reusing these plugs. So you just want to make sure that you get them cleaned up really well and get all the particulates off and get any of the old tape off, and then wrap them a few times, put them back in. This guy gets torqued to 16 to 23 foot-pounds, and this guy gets torqued to 19 to 28 foot-pounds whenever you're reinstalling. Alright, we are all cleaned and prepped up and ready to rock and roll and reinstall these guys. We're going to start by reinstalling, of course, the two drain plugs first, and then we'll fill the transmission with gear oil before we put our filler plug back in. Alright, we're back on the underside of the car. I just hand tightened this. It gets torqued to 29 to 43 foot-pounds. Now we're going to do the same thing with the lower drain plug. It gets torqued to 16 to 23 foot-pounds. So I have my torque wrench set to about 18 foot-pounds, and we're just going to snug this guy up and make sure he's not going anywhere. Just taking a quick look at the oil here, it's really clean. I mean, this was a pretty dirty catch pan whenever I started in on things, but it's really clean. Now that we have the drain plugs torqued down, I'm going to be replacing the oil in the transmission with a 75W90 full synthetic from Valvoline. They come in these handy little pouches, which makes it a little bit easier to get into tighter areas and squeeze it into the transmission to refill things. I have 3 quarts here. I'm going to be using 2.6 in order to fill it back up. And once I get those 2.6 quarts into the transmission, I'll just reinstall the drain plug and go from there. Back into the car here, you can see how these flexible bags come in handy. You can just kind of put the nozzle right into the fill hole and then squeeze them in order to get the new fluid into the fill hole. We are on our 3rd quart here, and it takes 2.6, which means that at about half of this bag, we're going to have some overflow here, and then we're going to want to put our drain plug in pretty quickly. And there we have. It's overflowing a little bit, which tells me that it is full. So I'm just going to put our fill plug back in, and then we will torque that back down. Now that our filler plug is installed, and that gets again torqued to like 19 to 28 foot-pounds, we're just going to clean up any of the excess oil that's around all the drain plugs, just to make sure that if we do have a leak in the future, we'll be able to visibly see where it's coming from, and that'll just make our lives a little bit easier in the future. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.